All right, hope everyone can hear me all right. And welcome to the Saturday night live stream, or I should say the Saturday night wine stream. I hope everyone's doing all well. I am, because I have in front of me a bottle of Poggio Scalette Chianti Classico, and that is what we'll be drinking tonight. And also I have an assortment of snacks to go with it, and hopefully this will be a good combination. And let me see if I can turn down some of this audio here first. Turn down some of this. There we go. Turn down some of this audio. There we go. I just want to be able to hear myself, but not hear myself 2 or 3 times here, because I have this, for the first time, I'm actually multi-stream, well actually it's the second time, I'm actually multi-streaming on Facebook and YouTube. So if anyone's joining us on YouTube, I'll be watching the chat there as well, and we'll be we're going to try this out. I'm taking baby steps with some of this. It's some of the live streaming stuff is new to me, so I'm learning as I go along. So bear with me, folks, if I'm not completely up to par with some of this. I'm still working with my setup here, trying to set up my like this. Trying to set up and experiment with my system here as it is. I'm actually not working with the most robust system for streaming. Hopefully we have enough bandwidth so it's not hanging up too much on us tonight. But the computer system, I'm still tweaking that up because I'm doing this on a very low budget, as I do most everything I do. So, of course, the wine, I spare no expense with the wine, really, because I mean that is the star of the show, is the wine, and that's what we're going to open up here shortly. So tonight what we have is let me see if I can pull this up. It is there we go. We're going to be doing a Poggio Scalette, and I think it's pronounced, how it's pronounced, Poggio. Let me turn this down a little bit more. Okay. I'm going to be opening a Poggio Scalette Chianti Classico tonight. This is a 2017. It is an Italian wine, imported. Let me see where it's imported from. The actual area. And it's in Italian, so I can't really read. I have Italian heritage, but I do not speak or read Italian very much. It is imported by a company called Winebow in New York, and this. Let me get a shot of the back label here. If I could find the right There we go. Okay, here's a shot of the back, and I'm going to read this. This is the Chianti Classico Poggio Scalette comes from grapes grown on the steep sloped vineyards of the beautiful and unique hill of Ruffoli and Grieve and Chianti. Oh, let's see. Ruffoli and Grieve and Chianti. Okay, that was a period there. It's hard to read. This is a very small type. Stony and steep soils, but generous and giving qualities to the grapes produced here, even more enhanced by a perfect southwest exposure. Another tribute to Chianti Classico area, in which by now Vittorio Fiore has been working for several decades, and that has always donated wines of superb quality. And that's what all that says. And if you can't read the label there from this photo, that's okay, because I'm looking right at the thing, and I can't read it much either. So that is what we're going to be opening up. And to open this bottle of wine, I'm going to be using this trusty little opener. I'm really, this is the third time, actually the fourth time I've used it, because I opened a bottle while we were not live streaming. And I'm going to be using this thing. This is a special opener that my wife got for me, and I've only used it a couple of times, so bear with me. The way it works is we put this over the bottle, we squeeze tightly, whoop, and it just opens right up. It's a little awkward for me because I'm in a sitting down position where the bottle is actually a little higher than I am. And then to get rid of the cork, let me set this aside so I don't cause an accident here. Get rid of the cork, we grab the cork and do the reverse. There we go. It's a very cool little contraption. My wife got it for $5 at a yard sale. No, it was a estate sale a few weeks ago. And it's turned out to be a really nice little gadget. I like it. Anyway, so here is the bottle. We're going to use my, before we start here, let me see who we have in the, anybody joining us so far, because I don't like to drink alone. And let's see if I can find. All right. Anyway, I'm going to open this up, or I'm going to pour this. I already opened it. What am I saying? I'm going to pour this in the glass as soon as I get this positioned here. There we go. And we'll give it a good whiff. I'm on a 15-second delay here, so I'm hearing myself actually say the last thing that I said. A little disconcerting. I'm going to turn off this audio completely, pretty much, for the time being. Anyway, so I have poured this in the glass. This is in my Cooper's Hawk glass that I purchased in Orlando last month. It's a really nice glass, real crystal. And that's the way to drink a good bottle of wine. I'm going to give it a nice whiff. It definitely smells like a Chianti. And I can smell a hint of black cherry. Yeah, definitely taste black cherry in here. And let's see what this is supposed to have in it. What it's supposed to taste like. Yeah, it's supposed to have a flavor of black cherry and some blackberry. I don't know that I can really taste the blackberry in here, but I can definitely taste some black cherry. It's a 2017, so it's not real old. Let me give this a good whirl. Twirl. And let's see what it has for legs. Let's see here. I don't know if you can see it really well from this angle. I'll hold it up to the light. I don't know if you can really see it well here against the blue. But Another good swirl. There is some, yeah, there are some artifacts in here. I can see a couple of pieces of cork I got in there. Or is that sediment? I can't tell. It looks like cork. Yeah, it's cork. Little cork never killed anyone yet, right? I don't know. It has a medium body. It's not too light. It's not too heavy. It's at a medium body, and it does have. It, yeah, the cork pieces kind of get in the way a little bit of the the rivulets. Can't really get rid of that, but hey, maybe I can just kind of drink the cork right out of there. Seriously. Anyway, it's not a bad wine. It's actually a pretty good wine. I think I picked this one up from the wine store for at wine store. I think it was $13-14 a bottle. Oh, let me see. Okay, $14.99 a bottle is what they're selling it for. That's the net on it, and that sounds about right. That sounds like about what I paid for it, and I think it's definitely worth every penny. $15 a bottle, I think, is a fair price to pay for this wine. It's easy to drink. And I do like it. It's not real oaky or anything. It's not real, it's actually pretty decent. We're losing a little bit of a stream here, as I can tell from here from our Facebook stream. And let's see if I can fix that a little bit. There we go. We fix that a little bit. All right. Okay. Apologize for that. If it's hanging up there, it might be hanging up a little bit, but hopefully that will take care of it. See, I've got a lot going on here tonight. Definitely want to get this streaming setup fixed so we can have a better, smoother stream in the future. Anyway, I hope everyone had a great week. I had a pretty interesting week. I got a chance to take a nap today, a short one, not a very long one, short one, and I really needed that because Chi and I took a little side trip up to Raleigh this past week, and it was really nice. We stayed at a hotel overnight and left the kids at home. So it was actually it was really cool because it was the first. I love my kids, but as we all know, parents of kids, we all need to have a little bit of just mom and dad time, and we hadn't really had much of that since the kids were born. So it was pretty exciting to be able to just take off for an overnight trip, out of town, just the two of us. Now, it was really a business trip for my wife, but it was just really cool to get away for a little bit and just relax and hang out and just spend some quality time together, which we did. We had a great time. It was cold. It started off pretty cold, so we really couldn't do much outside. We wanted to get around a little bit. We took a little walk near the the hotel, but we couldn't really go very far because it was just too cold to go out and do much. So we mostly kind of hung around the hotel, but it was still pretty nice, and it was just the drive wasn't that long. I mean, it was 2.5 hour drive from Charlotte, from where we live. Wasn't that bad. I can do 2.5 hours up, and then overnight the next day, 2.5 hours back. It's not too bad. I used to be able to drive quite a bit. In fact, I used to do a lot of driving. Now my day jobs, I think most all of my jobs, I did quite a bit of a commute back and forth. So I'm used to fairly long commutes. I think the longest commute I ever had with a job, a daily job, was a little over an hour one way. So it was basically 2 hour, sometimes a little bit longer round trip, and that's just driving straight on the highway, doing 60 or 70, and it was a long. There were long trips to go back and forth to work and home. I think the shortest stint I ever did with a job was, well, shortest stint, I should say, the shortest trip, not the shortest stint. Shortest trip that I did with a job was for a short period of time, for about a month. I stayed I rented a room in someone's house for about a month. And this is when I was younger, and it was about a block away from where I worked. So I was able to literally walk to work and back. And that didn't last very long. Interesting story behind that. But for about a month or so, I was able to save some serious gas money and wear and tear on the car, and just walk to work and back. But that was the shortest. That was the shortest trip. That was actually okay. I kind of liked that aspect of it. But in general, when I would commute back and forth, I mean, I worked at Disney for a number of years. So, and when I lived in Winter Park, that was kind of a long drive to Disney and back, and we didn't really have, in Orlando at the time, they didn't have nearly the highway system that they have now. And then there are several ways to get to Disney and back from Winter Park now. But when I was working out at Disney, and that was not too long after, no, so that was back in when I started, it was 1977. And I was still going to school at the time, and I would moonlight over at Disney several days a week, or several nights a week, and then drive home and go back to Disney. That was a 45-minute trip to and from. So it was about an hour and a half round trip. So that was a long drive to Disney and back to Winter Park every night. And I did it 3 nights a week, I think, or 4 nights a week going to school. During my last year of high school, I was doing it almost full time. So that was a long trip. And of course, my first period or so at high school was basically catching up on sleep. But in spite of that, I did graduate. But it was a little tough in the very beginning. So, but that was interesting. But anyway, commute-wise to work and back. In fact, I drive pretty far to work now because I work in another state, live in North Carolina, work in South Carolina, and it's a fair drive, but it's definitely not the longest drive I've had. And compared to some of the places I've worked, it's definitely well worth the drive. I don't have a problem driving to and from there. I've been doing that for 8 years, so I'm pretty used to it, and it's not a problem. So, and you know what? When I get home, it makes opening a bottle of wine and having a drink with dinner that much sweeter. So we're going to have some more of this wine, and I don't see anybody in the chat per se, although I may not be able to see the chat very well. Rob joined us. Hi, Rob. Good to see you in the chat. And I hope you're having a good evening. And I hope you are pulling up a chair and sitting down to watch this stream and having your favorite beverage along with me. Have something to eat. You know, it's always good to have something with the wine, because you just drink the wine straight. It's all that alcohol going straight to your system. Something to break that up a little bit. It's a good thing. I have, and I can't really show it to you too much, but I have a piece of chicken. And let's see, I have some turkey pepperoni and a couple of kinds of cheeses. I have a mozzarella, and I think this was a, it was one of the Parmesans that I had. I'll try that one a little bit later. This goes good with pasta, by the way. Excuse me. This pairs. I don't have a cough button here. I need to put one in. This goes good with pasta, spaghetti, linguine. Let's see, any angel hair pastas. Pretty much any kind of pasta. Ziti. Let's see, a chicken parmesan with pasta. Any of that will work okay. This actually, I think it'll work well with pizza. I've had a good Chianti with pizza before, and it actually pairs pretty well with that. In fact, I had pizza earlier today, and I think this, of course, I didn't have any wine with it, but I think this would go well with a decent pizza. Let's see, who else? Eric is in the chat. Hi, Eric. It's great to see you. And Bill's in the chat. Thanks for joining us, Bill. Hey, don't be silent. Say something. Say hi. Tell me how your day went. Tell me how your week went, how your weekend is going. I hope you're having something. I don't want to drink alone. Once again, drink with me. This is called Drink with Rick, the Saturday night wine stream. I've called it a couple things, but I call it a pretty good time. And right now, I hope you're having a good time as well. Join me. Have something to eat. Have something to drink. As I remember, let's see who else is here. Chi is here. My beautiful wife Chi has joined us, and she made a nice dinner, which I was not able to eat because I came up here to do this, but I will partake of some of that later on when the live stream is done. Excuse me. And the allergies are setting in as well. You know, this is allergy season, and Tommy and I have both had our fits with allergies. I'm having a little bit of touch of that now, which is very interesting because we left Florida because of allergies. The allergies were just so bad for me that we had to leave. So I have been pretty much allergy free, except this year the oak pollen has been pretty bad. It's been all over the car. It's been dusting everything, and it's starting to affect me a little bit as well. I went out and mowed the lawn the other day. I was fine until I mowed the lawn, and I think it just kicked up so much of the pollen that was in the grass that I just wasn't the same when I got back. And taking a shower to kind of clear everything just didn't help a lot. So I've been a little bit suffering a little bit from the pollen. But to poor Tommy, he's been hit with the pollen quite a bit. He has the allergies, so it's just that time of the year. But at least I'm not in Florida suffering with some of the allergies there, because they were pretty bad when I lived in Florida. Let's see. Eric, it's great to see you. I hope you're doing well. And Bill, Rob, and Chi. I know Chi's downstairs, or probably in our room, watching and laughing. Eric and I go way back. We go way back to middle school, early days of high school, and he's a really good friend of mine. We Well, in fact, I'm sure he remembered those days when I was working at Disney. He worked there for a while with me for a summer. He did a little bit of that, and sometimes we'd drive back from Disney together late at night. And yeah, it was a long drive. In fact, there's an interesting story to that. When I was in my last year of high school, about to graduate, I was able to scrape together enough money to purchase my first car with the help of my dad, and it was a Volkswagen. It was an old Volkswagen Beetle. It was a '68 Volkswagen Beetle, stick shift, by the way. I had learned to drive a stick shift from my dad's '68 Volkswagen Beetle, so I was pretty comfortable with that. I like driving sticks, and unfortunately, they just don't make too many cars with sticks in them. And in fact, I think they only make one or two now. And I think it's only special order or something. I was reading the other day that I think there's one stick version of a vehicle left around anymore, which is kind of a shame because stick shifts are fun to drive, I think, but that's just me. Anyway, Eric and I were coming back from a night at Disney. We were working, and I had the car for about a month, and it broke down on the side of the road somewhere in Maitland, I believe, if you remember that, Eric. And we wound up stuck at a Jack in the Box, I think, waiting for, I think we had my mom pick us up or something. I mean, we had to get a ride home while my car was stuck on the side of the road. And I think we were at a Jack in the Box at like 1 or 2 in the morning. And I'm not a big fan of Jack in the Box, but that was about the only thing that was open anywhere in the area. So we kind of hung out there for a while. But after that incident with my car breaking down, I think I had to go have a lot of work done on it that actually wound up costing almost more than the car that I purchased. I think I paid $400 or $500, maybe $400 for that car, which, actually back then in the '70s, I mean, that was for an old used clunker car. That was, not too bad. These days, I don't think you can buy a used car for less than $1,200, if that. That even runs. It's just, times have changed so much. But with that car. And there's another story with that car. I had to take it to have it. I had to take it to have the engine replaced on this car because the engine basically blew, and we had to pay another $300-400 for an engine to put in there. But I had that car for another month or so, and it turned out, I think what happened was that just yeah, I remember what that was now. This car had holes in the bottom, in the floor. The floor was completely rusted out. So you could be driving down the road, and I would be working the pedals, and I could look down between my legs in the seat, and I could see the road going by. And one night I drove home a friend of mine, a coworker, a different coworker. Eric, you may remember this car. Mark Wright has joined us. Or Mark, good to see you. Good to see you. Glad to see you in the chat. Anyway, where was I? Oh, let me have another swig of this. Oh, yeah. Well, we're driving home this old beat-up Volkswagen, and we had done a little bit of partying that night after work. We used to stop, our crew used to stop and have a beer or two at one of the local, in fact, I think it was the, let's see, it was one of those lounges, Laughing Kookaburra Lounge or somewhere, I don't remember at the time, that was on the Disney property. And he had a little too much to drink. So I said, well, I'm going to drive you home, the designated driver. So, because I was okay. So he'd had quite a bit much to drink. and he got in the passenger seat of the car, and I'm driving this little Volkswagen, and of course, this little car, if you've ever driven in a Volkswagen Beetle, it's fun to drive. They're fun to drive. They don't go that fast, but if you can get them up to speed, they you can make sharp turns in that thing, and it's like a little. You can go. Well, let me put it this way: he didn't take the turns too well. And then when he looked down and he saw that he started to put his foot on the imaginary brake, as inebriated as he was, and his foot went right through the floor, and realized that there really was no floor, that he was just watching the road go by. And at that point, I think I was getting onto Interstate 4, and he couldn't handle it any longer, and he just kind of opened the door and heaved out the door. Well, the thing is, though, that we were going a pretty good clip, and I said, you don't want to stick your head out the door and do that, but he did that anyway, and of course it all came flying back in his face, and needless to say, that was not a pleasant drive back to his house, but and then I had to do a little cleaning up of the car afterwards. But that car, let me have a little more of this. Anyway, no joke, true story. He literally got a face full of, his dinner. So, and I don't mean to be gross about it, but it was, and at the time it was pretty disgusting, but it's kind of funny now when you think about it. It wasn't too funny at the time, especially for him. Although I think he was a little bit too drunk to care. Anyway, that car, a few weeks after that, I had to go to the one of the back offices at Disney behind Space Mountain, and it had been raining, and I had gotten into my Volkswagen, and this thing was not real stable to begin with, but I was driving. The speedometer had broken, and I'd been working off a broken speedometer for quite a while, so it had no working speedometer. I had no idea how fast I was going. Although I was trying to gauge my speed, trying to guess at what was 35 and what was 40, and when I get on the highway, I'd try to guess at what was 55, because at the time I think we were still doing double nickels on the roads, and I'm pretty sure that I overshot that a lot. I never got a ticket for it. That's the interesting thing. I never really got a ticket for it, but so I thought I was getting pretty good at gauging the speeds. Anyway. It had been raining, and I had gotten off of work at Disney, and I had to head off to one of the other offices on the Disney property back behind the Magic Kingdom. So there was a service road, an employee service road back that wound around behind Space Mountain, and it had just finished raining, and I thought it was doing about 30, 35, but I was probably going faster than that. Anyway, my car, I started around this curve, and it was a long curve. I started around this curve, and the car suddenly hydroplaned because there's not much weight to these little Volkswagen Bugs, so my front wheels were not even touching the ground. So I was going around the curve, and I turned to go around the curve, and I could feel that my cars were not even on the ground at all. I had hydroplaned in the front end. And I just kept going straight, and I went straight head on into an El Camino coming from the other direction. And now, fortunately, nobody was hurt. It could have been really, really bad because, back in the day, especially with the Volkswagen Beetles, we didn't have seat belts on those things. Now we had a little hand. Something you grab with your hand on the passenger side. I don't think I had anything on the driver's side, but it's one of those deals where you think that if I stop, I can just grab the person next to me and keep him okay, keep him from flying out the window. That never works, but it's that kind of reflex action. Well, I felt that I was pretty fortunate. I mean that the handrail, I mean the hand thing that they had up there, obviously wasn't going to save anybody from, especially from a head-on collision like that. I don't know how I survived it. I really don't. I walked away from it. The other guy did too. But my car was completely totaled. I think his suffered some pretty bad damage as well. But that was my first accident, and it was my that Beetle, and of course that put me without a car for a while, and until another friend of mine, Jim, he had an old what did he have? It was an old Ford that he was selling, so he sold it to me real cheap, and so I was able to get another car after that. But that tell you that first car, that Volkswagen, that was an interest. That was quite a little car. Anyway, so this wine, once again, what I'm drinking here is the Poggio Scalette Chianti Classico. It is from Italy, imported from Italy. It's a nice wine, and it sells, as I recall, it sells on at winestore.com, or Wine Store, I should say. Wine Store is there's several of them here, but I think it's local here to the Charlotte area. And it's a really cool place. It's a small, the one that I go to in the Blaken area is very small. It's kind of a hole in the wall kind of place, but they have it stocked to the hilt with wine, and they do regular wine tastings. They'll do wine tastings on Thursdays, and they have like a little wine bar there that you can go in and pay and taste the other wines that they have there. But on Thursdays they do a free wine tasting. It's very cool. I have picked up a couple of wines from those kind of tastings, and the people there are really nice. They definitely know their stuff. If you're in the Charlotte area, I recommend checking out Wine Store. But this cost, I think this bottle here goes for, in fact, here's the oh, that's not it. That's another wine. Let me pull this one up. See if I can get this back up here. Okay. Gotta find it again. What did I do with it? Oh, here we go. It's Poggio Scalette. And this goes for $14.99 a bottle there. I don't know how much. Now, they discount wines quite a bit. So I will often go there and find a wine that is, that you sell for $14 or $15 a bottle of wine, and they will have it there for, this is a wine that you'll buy maybe for $30, $40 somewhere else. Here they'll have it for about half that, a third of that. Often, on an average, I've found that some of these wines that they have online for much higher prices are usually about 30% less on average at Wine Store. The website, see if I can pull the website up. Pulling up all kinds of stuff here. All right, let me see if I can pull the website. The website is winestore-online.com. I can't pull it up at the moment, but you can go to winestore-online.com. And no, I'm not I'm not being paid to promote them. This it's not a paid endorsement. I like the place, so I recommend it if you're in the area. Now, if you're not in the area, some of the other places I like to go to And one that I went to earlier this week in Raleigh is the Total Wine. Total Wine is pretty nice. They're a large store, and if you don't have a wine store in your area, in your location, but you do have a Total Wine, that's another good place to go to buy a wine. They have quite a selection of not just wine but beer and craft beers, and some craft beer that you really can't find too many places. They carry a pretty good selection of it, and I think they do, at least in our area, they do fill growlers. So if you like to buy growlers for beer, they will do that. There are a few wine stores that I've been to that there are a couple that I've been to that I can't necessarily recommend per se, so I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to cover those. Maybe in the future, maybe I can go to maybe I can cover some wine stores that I recommend and some that I don't necessarily recommend, and well, that could get me into trouble. But some that I don't particularly care for personally too much. There are not very many of those because, as a general rule, I found most of the wine stores in the general area here are, there are a couple that I've been in that they really don't know what they're selling, and they're a little overpriced. But I think that's why I recommend Wine Store. Is if you're living in this general area, is a good place to go. The Total Wine, the people at the Total Wine seem to know their stuff, and of course it seems like every employee there really has sampled the wines and they have their recommendations. So that's good to go with. In fact, rather than go with ratings, and I was going to cover this before, but you go online and you see ratings, and this is true of anything, not just wine, but ratings. There was a short period of time, that you could trust ratings online for the most part because they were all pretty much genuine people that try a product, whatever it was, and they would give their honest review, a rating on it, and they would say, well, I like this or I don't like this. And that was once upon a time, but these days it's very difficult to trust online ratings. Whether it is that you're purchasing a product from Amazon or if you're, looking for a restaurant online or a hotel to stay at, it's not easy to. You sort of have to do a little detective work and sort of read between the lines nowadays to figure out which ratings are real, because there's so many fake ones out there. There are a lot of ratings that are fake, and this has been perpetuated in a couple of ways. On Amazon had a big problem with this not too long ago, where you would get, in fact, some of the Chinese manufacturers that would sell on Amazon, they would give people items for free to give their review, but it was the incentive that I'm going to give this to you for free, so give me a good review. And some of those people would just give a 5-star review just because they got it for free, whether it was any good or not. Amazon had a huge problem with this. They've cracked down on it quite a bit. It's not. There's still some of that going on, but it's not like it was a couple of years ago, where just because it had 5 stars. And you'd purchase the product and then realize that, oh, wow, this is not what, why is everybody giving this a 5-star review? Because this thing is garbage. I recall, in fact, that was one of the reasons why Tommy and I started the Free Stuff Show podcast. And this is not a pitch for the Free Stuff Show podcast by any means. I'm just mentioning that this is one of the reasons why we started it, was because we wanted to be able to give honest reviews for things that companies had given us for free, give them honest reviews, and we have an SEC disclaimer on our website saying, "Hey, we got this for free. We're giving this our honest review. We're not going to, we're verifying that this is something that we've tested ourselves." And and the review might not be good. There have been cases where we've gotten a free item and we didn't give it a good review. In fact, there are a couple of items that we've received that we gave them horrible reviews. And of course, the manufacturer, the person who gave us the item for free, didn't like that. But you know what? We've got to be fair about it. We've got to be straight up. There was one in particular that it was for a book about how to get free stuff. Of all the crazy things, this was a book about telling you how to get free stuff. And the book was we picked it up and they were offering it to us for free so we could give them a review. And they were selling it for, I don't remember, $3, $5, something like that. But Tommy and I each downloaded a copy of this book. It was an ebook, basically. And we read through this thing, which took us all of about, 10 minutes to read. And it was horribly written. I mean, the person had no, well, let me put it this way. The writer was not a writer. The person who wrote this book was not someone who had a very good command of the English language, in written form at least, and really had no clear concept of sentence structure, and really couldn't keep her thoughts straight when she was writing this book. So Tommy and I, we were honest about it. We actually reviewed it on our podcast, and we gave it a fair review. This was definitely more than fair. We were being nice about it. We weren't being mean, but we gave it a fair and we gave it an honest review on Amazon. And we said, this book, we wouldn't recommend this book for free, much less pay for it. It was just that bad. But ours was one of the few, and I mean very few, reviews that were negative, that were 1-star ratings, because most reviews, and there were a lot of them, were 5-star ratings. And Tom and I were just, we saw this and we looked at each other and we said, how on earth is this possible? Well, it's possible if somebody's out there, the person who wrote is giving the book away for free to a lot of people and saying, hey, give me a good review. I'll give it to you for free if you give me a good review. But normally this book costs so much. And of course, by the time the person's downloaded it and they realize how bad it is, I said, well, I got it for free. I'll give them a good review. And that's what they do. And some of these people, they do. If they, especially if it's something they like, even if the product is junk, just because they got it for free and they want to get more free stuff from that vendor, they'll give it a glowing review. There's a lot of that sort of thing that goes on Amazon. So you can't necessarily trust, and it's not just Amazon, it's all over the net now. There's, I could go on a rant on this, but in fact, let me have some more wine. There's a dirty little secret, and it's not really so secret, about online reviews that go well beyond Amazon. But that's why Amazon started doing their verified. You can notice it was a verified purchaser, and they've taken a lot of steps to clean up a lot of that sort of thing with the fake reviews. But it's still out there. They're still out there. And it's not just Amazon, but it's all over the internet. So just because you see something with 5-star ratings, 5-star reviews, in fact, if everything's a glowing review, I would say a good percentage of the time, I would say if it's perfect 5-star review, you definitely you have to take a very close look at that and do a lot more research before purchasing that item. Do not trust it if it has a full 5-star review. This day and age, if you've got, well, let's say if you have 3 reviews and they're all 5-star ratings, it's probably all right. But if you see 50 people have supposedly or allegedly purchased this product and they're reviewing it and they're all 5-star glowing reviews, I would say a good deal of the time, that's a red flag. Check it out. Now there are some exceptions, like everything else. There are companies that are so good, that are really that good, that that they can deliver the service, the product, and the service so well consistently that people just love them. And there are companies out there. They do exist, absolutely. But if you see if you see a particular product, it's 100 people, 5-star reviews. Check them out first a little bit before just trusting those reviews. There are too many of them out there uh, that have basically paid for those reviews in one way or another. And there are services out there that will say, hey, you know what? We'll make sure that you get a bunch of reviews for your product or service. You pay us a certain amount of money, and we'll basically jack those reviews. We'll there are companies out there that do that. It's definitely not ethical, completely unethical, but they do exist. So once again, if you're going to buy a product, look at a service online, don't necessarily just trust the reviews. What it's better than just trusting reviews is to go with personal recommendations. Your friends, your family, people that you know and you trust, word of mouth, personal recommendation. That's why social media can be a good thing for people that you know and trust, not companies that are advertising on social media that says, hey, this is good, like this is a good bottle of wine, but people that you know and trust. Like, for instance, this wine stream. If I'm telling you that this is a good bottle of wine, there's a pretty good chance you can trust this bottle of wine. You can go out and purchase this wine, and you can trust it because I tried it. You watched me try it on the wine stream. You're watching me drink it, and I'm saying this is a good bottle of wine, and it is a good bottle of wine. I like this wine, and I will buy it again. That's a sort of recommendation that you can say, hey, you know what? If he says it's a pretty good bottle of wine, I'm going to try it. Now, of course, everyone's taste is different. There are wines that I like that you might not like. Like, this is a dry red. The Chianti is a dry red wine. It's this one's a very fruity wine. And if you don't like dry, red, fruity wines, you may not like this one. But that's a personal taste. Now, just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's not any good. It just means that's not your preference. So if you don't like dry, red, fruity wines, you have been warned. Don't get this one because it's a dry, red, fruity wine. But if you're looking, let's say, for instance, even if you don't like dry, red, fruity wines like this Chianti, but you're looking for a gift for someone who does like that kind of wine, then you can say, you know what? I don't want to try this myself, but I want to give someone else a bottle of this wine as a gift. And he says this is a good wine to get. Maybe I can trust this recommendation, and I can purchase this bottle of wine as a gift. And that'll work. Now, there are wines that I've tried that I didn't like so much. I think the very first wine that we did for the wine stream, you can go back and watch it. It was for the collection. It was a wine from Target. Target put out their own brand of wine. Now, I said it was okay. You know, I didn't give it a bad review per se. I said it was okay. It was not a $15, $20 bottle of wine. It went for $10 a bottle. I don't know if I'd buy it again at $10. I'd buy it for $7 or $8 a bottle, maybe. And I'd say it was an okay wine for to go with burgers and things like that. But it was not a wine that I would Say if the boss was coming over and I want to impress the boss, or if I was having a party with a lot of people that were real sommeliers or wine snobs or anything like that, I definitely would not. That's not a wine I would purchase for them. That's just the way it is. That's not what I would do. I wouldn't recommend the wine for that. If you just don't, if you're looking for something to drink while you're doing some grilling on a Sunday and it's just you drinking it, or you and the wife, or you and the husband, or whatever, and and you don't really have a preference, then it's okay. It's an okay bottle of wine. Um, I didn't trash it. I haven't really, in fact, I haven't really trashed any wine I've tried here so far. But maybe we should go out on a limb and try a bottle that maybe well, I don't I don't like to drink bad wine either, so I don't really want to open a bad wine on this stream. But let's say, for instance, if I do open a bottle of wine, it turns out to not be good, or corked, or vinegar, or just not really up to my standards for wine. And my standards are not really that high, but I do have standards for wine. There are some wines I will not drink. There are definitely some wines I would not recommend. But if that happens to be one of them, I'll be honest about it. And I'll open it up. I'll try it. And if I don't like it, I'm going to tell you I don't like that wine. It's going to be an honest review for me. But I'm not gonna lie to you. It's just not. It's just not it. If you're investing some time to watch this and you want to say, hey, you know what is he like, and is it any good or not? I'm going to tell you if it's good or not. If it's no good, I'm going to tell you. So as far as the wine stream is concerned, I'm going to make that commitment to you right now. If I'm going to be honest about it. If it's a good wine, I'm going to say it's a good wine. If it's not, it's not. If it's meh, I'm going to tell you that's that too. So that's that. Anyway, I said that I would not drink a whole bottle of wine. This is an easy bottle of wine to drink. I will say that, and that's no lie there. This is, if you don't like Chiantis, then you're not going to open a bottle of this at all. But if you do like Chiantis, or you're somewhat partial to them, then I think you'll like this wine. It's actually pretty decent Chiantis. I really haven't had, and I like Chiantis. Now the disclaimer right there is I do like Chiantis. And my dad was he really loved Chianti wine. Now, some of the ones that I remember, I think he used to buy, was it a Rosso or something, a Chianti, a big table wine. He'd buy a big jug of Rossi Chianti table wine. In fact, he didn't just have that big jug of wine there for the table. He would buy it by the case. And no kidding. And I don't know if Gina, Penny, if you're watching, if you're listening, you probably remember that my dad used to buy Chiantis by the case, the jugs of wine. I'm talking about not just bottles of wine. He'd buy jugs, the big bottles that were the jugs, the table wines, by the case. And I remember, I don't know if he bought it in bulk or not. I don't know, but it kind of looked like it, because I'd been out to the garage a couple of times and seen a couple of cases of wine sitting there. So I don't know if he was stocking up for the apocalypse or what. I don't know, but he loved his wine, but he particularly loved Chiantis, and he drank a lot of that. I don't know how much you could drink in one sitting, but I can say that there were yeah, he drank all of that pretty much himself. He usually sometimes we'd have company over, but we didn't have that many parties. So and my wife was oh excuse me my mom uh, my, my wife she doesn't drink wine much either, just like my mom didn't. But my mom would drink more beer than wine, although she was known to drink a glass of wine. Now my wife, she doesn't drink that much wine, but every occasionally when she does, she'll drink a white wine or something, but just a little bit. But my dad, whew, he uh, he could drink everybody under the table pretty much that I knew of. Anyway, so he was big on Chianti. I used to sip the Chianti, and that's kind of how I developed the taste for Chianti. And I still have that taste for Chianti wine. In fact, I'll have just a little bit more. I'm not going to fill the glass up all the way. There's still half a bottle in here, so I am in no way. Let me see if I can. I don't know if you can see it from here, but going around. But there's half a bottle in here. Standard 750 milliliter bottle. There it is. So, no lie, that's truth. That's half a bottle of wine. It won't be if I keep drinking it. And I know some of you tune in to the wine stream just to see me drink an entire bottle of wine. And as I said before, I think a couple of wine streams ago, a couple of weeks ago, that I don't like to do that. I try not to do that. Yeah, the first couple I did, but I don't like to do that because first of all, it's not good for you. It's too much. It's too much. Second, I don't like having to get up in the morning, Sunday morning, and after a Saturday night wine stream and saying, I'm never doing this again. Although, usually by the evening, I'm thinking about what I'm going to do for next week, what bottle of wine I'm going to buy for next week. But I try to pace myself on this, but I have reasons, definitely, I have a lot of reasons for not wanting to overdo this. First of all, I think it's good to set an example to people and say, you know what? Moderation, all things in moderation. And as I said before, as I said last week, if you're watching the wine stream, be doing this at home or in your hotel room or somewhere where you're going to be settled in for the night, wherever it is. Don't be doing this. Don't be drinking and driving. Don't be watching this in a bar somewhere where you can go where we've had too many of these and then you're going to drive home. I don't want you to do that. I'd rather you turn off this wine stream right now. Right this minute. If you're in a bar or you're somewhere and you're saying, "Hey, I'm going to drink with Rick and I'm going to drink the whole bottle of whatever I have," turn off this wine stream right now. I don't want you to do that because that's not what this is about. This is about getting together, sitting back and relaxing at home, having a great time, having some wine, having some cheese. Interact with me in the chat. Interact with me in the chat by all means. But because I don't want you to drink alone. I don't like to drink alone. But by all means, I don't want you to be out and about, drinking, driving, that sort of thing, because that's not good. That's not healthy. Wine in moderation is healthy, and I've known, I know. I have family members. I know people that have lived to be very, very old, and that's what they did. You know what? George Burns was known to have, what is it, his brandy? his cigar, and the man lived to be 100 years old. A lot of people that live to be 100 years old or older, and they drank and smoked and did all kinds of things all their life, and you think, well, how did they do that? Here people that are keeling over in their 40s and their 50s from high cholesterol and eating too much bacon or whatever, and here are these people that have done all of that and more throughout their lives. They lived hard lives. I mean, not hard lives. I mean, they've really lived their lives. They've really lived their lives, been around the block a few times, more than a few times, and yet they've lived to be very old. So how is it that some people can take it and others can't, for lack of a better way to put it? Fact is, I don't know. Probably a combination of things. Probably maybe some of it's in the genes, maybe some of it's hereditary. I don't know, but there are some people that can live very hard and live to be very, very old, and then other people who have done the same thing and they don't. It's I don't want to say it's the luck of the draw, but maybe extremes. There are a lot of these people that have lived lives where they've done everything absolutely right, and then they keel over at 40 or 50. And other people have lived hard lives and they live to be 100 years old. I don't know, but as I understand it, doing things in moderation, is probably the best way to go, because you're probably going to live to be at least 70 or 80 if you're you can't live your life in a closet. You can't live your life as a pure vegan and say, I'm not going to touch any red meat because red meat will kill me. Moderation in all things, that's it's a biblical saying, but I think it applies. I think you kind of have to pace yourself. Whatever you do, you really have to pace yourself, and you have to use common sense, I guess, for lack of a better term. Use some common sense in whatever you're doing, and maybe that's really part of the key. It's just living your life with some measure of common sense. And if you do that, you're probably going to be okay. You'll live a nice long life. That's all I got there. I don't know, because I have no idea. All I know is that some people don't live very long, and other people do, and there doesn't seem to be any real rhyme and reason for it. Every time somebody has like 104th birthday or 105th birthday, the oldest person in the world, and they always ask them the same thing in an interview. They'll interview that person, the oldest person in the world, and they'll ask them the same question all the time. And that question is, what do you attribute to your longevity? Or a variation of that question, right? What do you attribute to your longevity? What is it that you've done that has given you such a long life? And the answers are so varied. You listen to them, the answers are so varied. Some of them have been teetotalers. Some have been, the town drunk. Some of them have eaten only veggies. Some have been eating meat all their lives. Some have been doing all the right things. Some people have been doing all the wrong things. And yet they all live to be 100 or 104 or whatever it is. My aunt, I have an aunt in Philadelphia who is going to be, I believe, 102 this year in July. She was born on the 4th of July, July 4th. And she's going to be 102, maybe 103. I don't remember now. I've lost track now. I know she did a long time ago, but I've lost track of how old she is. But she's well over 100 years old. And now she never really drank wine that I know of. She doesn't really drink wine, but she's done plenty of other things. She's eaten a lot of other things, that you would think that would kill a person, high cholesterol and things that would give you high blood pressure, that sort of thing throughout our lives. But yet here she is approaching 102 years old. And what's her secret to longevity? Well, the bottom line is, it really a secret? Is there a secret to longevity? Maybe it is just in the genes. Maybe it is just the luck of the draw. Maybe it's just pure chance. Who knows? I don't think. Science tries to pinpoint everything here on longevity, but I don't really think anybody really knows. Everybody's just guessing. It's just like everything else that. It's like the studies, all of the myriads of studies that go on. I've seen so many studies, read so many studies about how, and I love coffee, by the way. There'll be one study that says coffee is bad for you, it's terrible for you, and another study will say coffee is great for you. 3 to 4 cups of coffee a day that's what you need. Others will say 5 or 6 cups of coffee a day. That's what you need. And others will, and then another one will come out and say, 6 cups of coffee a day will kill you. The same thing with wine. I've seen studies that saying wine is bad for you. Look at this right here. Let me see if I can pull this up. Let me see if I can do that. Here we go. I don't know if you can see it down at the bottom of that. I cut off part of that. Surgeon General's warning, the government warning. According to the Surgeon General, women should not drink alcoholic beverages during pregnancy because of the risk of birth defects. Consumption of alcoholic beverages impairs your ability to drive a car or operate machinery and may cause health problems. Well, that we knew, but as far as the driving machinery is concerned, that's kind of a no-brainer, but which is one reason why you should not overdo this. But here's an official government warning telling you all the things that's bad for wine, and then you'll see a study come out that says drinking 1 or 2 glasses of wine every evening will actually increase your lifespan. Okay, so you drink 1 or 2 glasses of wine every evening and it'll increase your lifespan. And here's a government warning saying, well, this can kill you, basically. So which is it? Which one is it? Can you really have it both ways? Is it maybe the government warning is going based on whether you're having 4 glasses of wine? Maybe 3 or 4 glasses of wine instead of 1 or 2? It doesn't say. That's the thing about this government warning, is it doesn't tell you how much wine. It just says drinking wine, drinking alcoholic beverages, and this is an alcoholic beverage. In fact, if you look down towards the bottom, it does say that alcohol is 13% by volume, which is I've said several times on the wine stream in the past that this is not, well, it's kind of cutting off that part, but I've said several times that the alcohol content, the actual alcohol content that they have posted on here is really not accurate at all. It's oftentimes higher, a couple points higher, sometimes as much as 3-4 points higher than that, sometimes more than that, from what I've heard. And once again, that's all hearsay. Like the government's warning. I think this is kind of hearsay, isn't it? I don't know. They've done studies that says alcohol is bad for you. They've done other studies saying alcohol is good for you in moderate amounts. Okay, in moderate amounts. The thing is that it's confusion. It's just plain confusion. People are saying, okay, well, wait a minute. Is it bad for me or is it good for me? Is this glass of wine, if I drink this glass of wine, is it going to kill me or is it going to save me? Let's find out. All right. The fact is, I think the real truth of this is nobody knows. And I'm going to say that again in close up. Nobody knows. Nobody really knows if it's how bad for you or how good for you it is, or if it's bad for you or good for you. Nobody really knows. It's all, they've done study after study after study, and there are a lot of reasons why a study can come out one way or another study can come out a different way. Sometimes they're paid for by whatever group is, sometimes the outcome is determined by whatever group is paying for the study, and however they want to skew it. It's kind of like politics, and once again, we really don't discuss politics on this, but I'm just using that as an example. As it's a matter of, if you're on one side of the fence or the other side of the fence, depending on where you're standing at the moment, that's all you're going to hear. That's all you're going to hear. Whoever's talking to you, that's what you're going to hear, and that's what they want you to believe, and that's what the truth is. But the real truth is nobody really knows. And that's the truth. Anybody that tells you that they know that wine is going to kill you or wine is going to save you is somebody you don't really want to talk to, because the bottom line is they don't know. Nobody knows. They're working off of whatever skewed study or skewed statistics that they have seen, or that's going to fit their narrative. Some people, there are people out there that say, oh, you know what? Wine is evil. Don't drink wine. It's evil. And then there's the other side of the coin that says, well, Jesus drank wine. Jesus talked about wine. So it must be good. How can it be evil? Well, somewhere there's a middle, and somewhere there's the truth. And I think the truth is, very simply, once again, that nobody knows. The truth is whatever fits someone's narrative, whatever they want, whatever they like, whatever they want you to believe. That's their narrative. And it's really up to the rest of us sitting around to determine, okay, well, what is the truth? If you want to know what the truth is, well, the truth is you're going to have to research this and decide for yourself. Is wine good for you, or is wine bad for you? Now, there are some people that, there's some people that I know. I'm not going to name names or anything like that. That, they're on meds. They shouldn't be drinking alcohol. And that's, you're on the meds. If you're on a bunch of meds that have contraindications, that have they're going to cause problems if you're drinking alcohol, absolutely you should not be drinking alcohol. Okay, bottom line, don't do that. There are people that can't handle alcohol to any degree for whatever reason. Could be psychological, could be something where they just crazy people out there, and there are plenty of them out there these days, that they shouldn't be drinking anything except water, and I mean anything, No alcohol, no sugar, no caffeine, nothing, but with just water. There are plenty of those out there. But then there are the rest of us. And for the rest of us, it's a matter of, well, is this good for me or is it not good for me? And that's when it becomes a personal decision. It's not. It's really not a scientific, thing at this point. It's not a religious thing at this point. It's a personal decision. It's a decision that you make, for yourself. But if you do make that decision, and once again, I'm not pouring any more of this. I'm just drinking what's in the rest of this glass, because we're nearing the end of the wine stream for the night. We're coming close to the end. As a personal decision, that's your decision. But if you make that decision, don't judge someone else if they decide differently. That's what I'm saying. If you make the personal decision that I'm not going to drink wine, I don't believe that wine is good for you, I don't believe it's a good idea, that's a personal decision. Don't judge someone else because they think that, oh, you know what, this wine is good for me. It'll help lower my cholesterol. There are definitely some health benefits to drinking wine. Jesus drank wine. I know that's brought up so many times. There's, there are a lot of advantages to drinking wine in moderation. So I'm going to drink wine. And if that person has made that decision to drink wine, and the other person has made the decision not to drink wine, then neither one should judge the other for their decision. In other words, if you don't like wine, I am not going to judge you because you don't like wine. But on the flip side, don't judge me because you don't drink wine and you don't like wine and I do. It's not fair. The point is that it's a personal decision. And in the case of any personal decision, and this is why we don't talk about politics on the show, religion and things like that, like any personal decision, it's not fair to base the opinions of others on your personal point of view. And I think that's what I'm getting at. Now, you can disagree with me, and in fact, you know what? If you disagree with me, put it in the chat. I want to hear your thoughts on this. If you disagree with me, put in the chat. Actually, email me too. You can email me right now. I don't have an email set up for this wine stream, but you can email me at rick@savoyamedia.com. That's rick@savoyamedia.com. Tell me where I'm full of it. But not the wine, but just full of it, period. Tell me where I'm wrong. I want to hear your thoughts on it. And even if you agree with me, but you know what? Even if you don't agree with me, I want to hear those thoughts too, but respectfully so, because that's what we do here on the wine stream. We're respectful of each other. We're not getting together to argue. We're getting together to be friends, to share thoughts, our views, our opinions, our stories, and just sit around and have a good time. That's all. Anyway, this wine stream, it's about time. It's getting pretty late. It's a little after midnight, and it's about time to close this wine stream out. I hope you guys had a great time. I know I did. I didn't. I'd really like to hear more about what you're doing. Tell me what your thoughts are, and we'll meet up next week. I hope to see a lot of you in the chat, and we can chat back and forth. and talk about our week and talk about what's on our minds. And in the meantime, everyone have a great week. And I'll just finish this glass and I'll be done. Okay, I'll finish it now. In moderation. I'll finish it. By the way, if you haven't seen this, I'm going to throw this up real quick. This is, if you notice this, you can find it here. This artwork, my daughter made this. This was done by my daughter Tia. She's a very talented artist. She has done a lot of different pieces of artwork for a lot of different people. She does what she calls commissions, where people will commission her to do artwork. And I commissioned her to do this one for me. It turned out pretty nice. I like it. But she has done artwork for, if anyone has seen Tommy's podcast, Cube Command, she's done a lot of the artwork for that. Tom Antio, that sort of thing, his YouTube channel, Tom Antio. She's done a lot of the artwork for that. And she's really talented, but she can take, if you're a podcaster, if you're doing anything YouTube wise and you need some artwork done, you can send her a request for commission, and I'm sure she'll be happy to do something for you there. But she does this all by hand. Now the drink with Rick part, that's a temporary. This part right here is a temporary font that I put up, or temporary typecase that I put up to an overlay for the title card, but that's not hers. But she did the artwork for it, and I think she did a phenomenal job on it. And thank you very much, Tia. Anyway, I hope everybody has a great week, and join us next week for the live stream. Next week, we are going to open, unless something else changes, we're going to open a bottle of the Museum Reserva. That I'm looking forward to very much. Anyway, see everyone next week, and until then, hope everyone has a great week. Thanks for joining me on the live stream, and I'll chat with you all later. Good night.